Ever think about, you know how we actually like hold on to memories? I mean, today we're going to be diving into a story from the book of Joshua, and it really tackles that idea head on. It's about the Israelites just after that, the miracle when they crossed the Jordan River.
hmm
And it's a simple instruction from God, but it's going to resonate in ways you might not expect.
Oh, yeah, it's a pivotal moment for sure. I mean, they just witnessed this incredible display of God's power, right? The river
hmm
parting to let them walk right through on dry land. You'd think they'd be like, celebrating. But instead, God tells Joshua to have them gather stones.
Okay, that does seem a little anticlimactic.
Yeah.
After, such a dramatic event, what was the deal with those stones?
Well, God told Joshua to have 12 men, one from each of the 12 tribes of Israel, to pick up 12 stones right from the riverbed where the priests had stood. Not just any rocks, but stones from that exact spot.
So they're like souvenirs, but with a deeper purpose.
Exactly. They become these stones of remembrance, a tangible reminder of what God had done for them. And it's fascinating because God isn't just thinking about the people who were there, he's thinking generations ahead.
So it's like a built-in history lesson.
More than that, even. It's about embedding meaning into the very landscape they're inhabiting. Imagine years later a child coming across these stones and asking their parent, "What are these?" And that starts a conversation about this incredible story connecting them to their past and their faith.
That's actually a brilliant strategy. It's like a physical prompt for storytelling, a way to make sure that this defining moment in their history isn't forgotten. But what's so powerful about remembering, especially in this way, isn't it better to just focus on the present and the future?
That's a great question. And it gets to the heart of why this story is still so relevant to us today. Those stones, for the Israelites, weren't just about the past. They were about identity, about understanding who they were as a people and what they were capable of.
Because they'd seen God's power firsthand.
Precisely. It's a reminder of God's faithfulness, a tangible testament that he can overcome any obstacle. And remembering that can be incredibly powerful, especially when you're facing your own challenges.
You're saying it's not just about nostalgia or sentimentality. It's about anchoring yourself to something bigger, something that can give you strength and perspective.
You got it. Yeah. It's about drawing strength and resilience from those moments where you've seen God working in your life. And here's where it gets really interesting for us. Because this whole memorial thing isn't just ancient history. We can do it too.
Yeah.
Apply it to our lives today.
So we're not talking about like literally piling up rocks in our backyards, right?
Yeah, no, unless you have a really big backyard, haha. But the principle is the same.
Mhm.
It's about finding ways to actively remember and, commemorate those key moments, the turning points in our lives that make us who we are.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What are we talking about here? Give me an example.
Well, it could be something as simple as a photo that captures a special memory, or a journal entry, where you poured out your heart during a hard time. Even an object, like a piece of jewelry from someone you love, can become like a touchstone, a way to connect with something deeper.
So it's not just the actual thing, it's about the emotions, the lessons, the experiences they represent.
Exactly. It's like curating your own personal museum full of those potent memories. And you get to choose what goes in, what stories are told. And the act of choosing those objects, those memories, is powerful in itself. It makes you reflect on your journey,
Yeah.
appreciate the good and the bad, and recognize how far you've come.
It's funny. We talk about mindfulness and being present all the time, but this is like a form of intentional remembering, choosing to go back to those moments and learn from them.
I love that, intentional remembrance, because those moments, both good and bad, they've shaped who we are. They're full of valuable lessons, reminders of our resilience and those sparks of joy that can re-energize us now.
It's like building a reservoir of strength and wisdom to draw on when we need it.
Exactly. And just like those stones made the Israelites talk about things, our memorials can do that too. Spark conversations with the people we love, sharing those stories, those pivotal moments. It's a way to connect, on a deeper level, to pass on our values, to create something that means something that lasts beyond ourselves.
I'm seeing a whole new side to this story now. It's not just about remembering the past. It's about connecting the past to now and to the future. But there's something else here, too, that I think is worth talking about, Joshua's leadership.
Oh, yeah, Joshua's role is crucial. Imagine being him. You've just led your people through this miraculous event, and then God tells you to have them gather rocks. Might have seemed like a strange request.
Yeah, you'd think they'd be more focused on celebrating or figuring out what's next.
Right. But Joshua obeys. He just does it. He gets why God's asking, even if everyone else doesn't. And he leads by example, making sure everyone follows through on this whole remembering thing.
It's a reminder that being a good leader isn't just about giving orders. It's about inspiring others to follow a vision, even when they need to see things differently.
And actually doing something about it, even when it seems out there. Because sometimes the most profound things are the ones that seem simple on the surface. Gathering those stones seems simple, but it meant so much for the Israelites' identity, their faith, and their future.
And it was public, too. It wasn't private. Everyone saw what they were doing. And when the priests with the Ark of the Covenant finally stepped out of the river, the water came rushing back. It was like God was showing off his power for everyone to see.
That's a great point. You're right. It was meant to be seen, a shared experience that brought them together, their history and their faith in God.
Makes you think about when we share our own stories, right? When we've seen something amazing or God working in our life, it's not like bragging or
It's
anything.
like giving testimony, right?
Yeah.
Encouraging other people who might be struggling. Because when we share those stories, for real, it can give people hope and inspire them to believe that they can overcome anything, too.
Yeah, like those stones, they weren't just about the past. They were pointing to the future.
That's a great way to put it. And that leads us to this idea of legacy. Those stones were supposed to last, to keep telling that story, for generations. They were building a legacy of faith.
And that's something we all think about, right? Leaving our mark, passing on something meaningful.
Absolutely. It's more than just stuff or accomplishments. It's the values we have, the stories we tell, the love, and how we impact others.
That's like those ripples, but on a bigger scale.
Exactly. And just like they chose those stones carefully, we get to choose what kind of legacy we build. What are the stones in our lives that tell our story, our lessons and values? What do we want to pass on?
Wow. It's a powerful question. This whole conversation has been eye-opening. I thought I knew this story,
Mhm.
but I'm seeing it in a whole new way.
It's amazing how these old stories can still speak to us today, isn't it? There's a timeless wisdom.
So to wrap things up, let's go back to those key takeaways, those 12 stones. They became so much more than just rocks. They were a reminder of God's faithfulness, a reason to tell stories,
Yeah.
and a foundation for building a legacy.
And the amazing thing is, we can apply those same ideas to our own lives. It doesn't matter if it's faith or family or anything else that's important to us.
We can all create our own stones of remembrance to remember the things that shaped us and tell those stories to others. It's about connecting the past to now and, shaping the future.
And on that note, here's a thought to leave you with. What are the stones in your life? Those experiences or lessons that made you who you are. How can you make sure your story is still told?
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the power of remembering. We'll see you next time for another exciting exploration.